The Innovation Theater at CSEMP Edge 24 is sponsored by Gaines. Move forward faster.
Hey everybody. Today we're going to present a bit of a partnership on bridging that gap and between software and hardware, and a guide to implementing a warehouse robotics and automation system. My name is Michael Fiorito. I'm a senior sales executive with Exotec, and I'm joined by Alex.
Yep, I'm a senior principal consultant with Bricz. We implement WMS systems, do robotic selection, really any software needs that you have within the warehouse.
Thank you. So I'm going to let Alex kick it off a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of background. So I've been in this industry for about 23 years, selling automation and software, and then I'll let you.
Yep, and I've been on like the WMS side mostly for about a decade. Done some consulting work and such, but implemented a ton of robotic systems, conveyors, ASRSs, what have you. So you're looking at robotics, you've decided, hey, we want to put something in here, or maybe you decide you want to really dive into it. From there, you really need to start getting a plan together and figuring out what you're going to do. So on the screen, we've got kind of the general project phases that you're going to follow to get through this. So this first step of initiating is really thinking about what solution you might want, defining why you're trying to put this system in, deciding what KPIs you're going to use to measure whether it's successful or not, and really just kind of figuring out what you want to do. From there, you're going to move into planning that, so really getting into the nitty-gritty of the executional of what we want to do here, what systems are involved, who we should have, and lastly, we're going to go execute that project, right? However, we just kind of talked about the top side of this. On the bottom, you've got this change management angle. So all projects at the end of the day, to steal something I've heard Michael say, are people projects. So if you don't get the people involved that are going to be interacting with the system day to day, whether that be on the floor, whether that be in IT, other systems, it's probably not going to go very well. So we want to get ahead of that, start that early on, and make sure they're involved so that they know what's coming, they're ready for it, and if something needs to be tweaked along the way, we get that feedback and we can jump on top of it.
Thanks a lot. So what we want to do is in the initiation phase is understand the business case. Kind of goes back to that saying, start with the goal. Ensure that your project is aligning with the business goals. There's a lot of companies out there that know that they want to automate, they know they need to automate, but sometimes don't understand what it's going to take to be disruptive, but still keeping current operations going. Some of the things that are important to identify are those key pain points, whether that's shipping out on time, whether that's consolidation of inventory, and then also taking a second to really step back, assess what the impact of taking no action is. You know, a lot of times we'll talk about cost avoidance. You know, every day that you don't make a change can have an adverse effect on the bottom line. Some of the other things are looking at what are the design assumptions, what are the parameters needed, et cetera. Outline some of those key elements within the organization that can be affected. Make sure that the product profiles and the things that you're looking to do and store and retrieve fit the profile of automation and have enough value behind them in order to justify the cost. And then make sure that there's this alignment and clarity so that when you've got these stakeholders or your executive committee, whatever you may have, take that time to focus in on all of that so that you don't have this scope creep. A lot of people look at automation, they look at robotics, and they think, well, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. And it's really important to kind of slow down, take a look at maybe the top 3 initiatives that can have the most impactful outcome for the organization, and then make sure that you minimize that background noise. And then at the end, really, the success is all, the criteria can change for any organization for any number of reasons, but really define the objectives and make sure that resources that are allocated to the project can have the best possible outcome. Make sure that the metrics and KPIs are in place in the organization so that you see a clear result and value right away once automation is deployed. And then hold the company that you're working with, your suppliers, your consultants, WMS folks, hold them accountable with their KPIs as well, and make sure that that is clear and the targets are specific and then maintained during the whole execution of the project.
Yep, so coming right off of that is once we understand exactly what those KPIs are, who's going to be responsible, we really need to bring all those people together and communicate that with them effectively. So there's always some obvious stakeholders. You're going to look at the guys that are paying for the project, the C-suite. Right. You're going to look at IT because there's going to be some level of communication, maybe the floor, the vendor. But the things that often get missed is what else is affected. So if we're putting in this new robotic solution, what of our reports are going to get affected by that? And does our order management system need to handle this differently? Are we trying to do something else alongside the robotics? Maybe we're a single channel facility and we're going to an omni-channel facility. That's going to have a lot of impacts on all parts of the organization. I'm just going across the bottom of the screen. It's going to affect who you're hiring, how we're paying bills potentially. If you weren't doing e-com before, right, that's going to change a ton of stuff with your ordering and payments. All of that needs to get rolled into the project, and people need to understand how various parts of the project can interact. And they need to be able to bring up those exception cases of hey, we haven't thought about this. We're going to start doing a lot more small orders. Our OMS system is built for full truckload or very large LTL. How are we going to go about dropping those orders? What additional information do we need? What else could be affected by this process?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and really making sure that all of the parties that are involved are held to account throughout the entirety of the process. A lot of people will be early on. They'll be a big part of your executive committee or your steering committee, and then as time goes on, they get pulled into other projects and things, and that's why having an executive sponsor from each of those different operational disciplines is really important. So, you want to jump in? Just talk a little nuts and bolts, I guess.
Yeah. So, we've gotten through that. We've got everybody on board. Everybody's aligned on the end goal here. Ultimately, we need to do this thing. So when we're putting it in, my background, one of the big pieces here is getting the WMS to talk to whatever robotic solution you brought in. And that's going to involve a lot more systems than just the WMS, as we were talking about. But ultimately, that's the big piece, and everything else is going to feed down to that. So jumping into one of these projects, you're going to have a design phase, a build phase, a test phase, and a launch. Here we've kind of broken that down into design and execute, and some people have 5 steps, some people have 4. But that's basically what you're getting to. So when you jump to that design phase, you really want to lay the foundation for the entire project super solidly. Because if you miss something here, that's where you get scope creep from. That's where schedules get missed. So you really want to focus on that design phase. Piece 1 is just making sure that your vendor system and your system speak the same language. Historically, we saw a whole bunch of TCP/IP, maybe some SFTP type communication, maybe even SOAP. But as we've moved forward, the last several years, we're really seeing everybody move to APIs, usually RESTful, shooting JSONs back and forth, that sort of thing. That's kind of the easy piece. The harder piece here is which systems own which parts of this process. So if you're thinking about WMS, historically its job is to keep inventory. It's the source of truth for inventory. That's really all it's there to do. Yes, we're fulfilling orders. Yes, we're doing all these awesome other features. But if the WMS doesn't know what inventory is, it's totally useless to you. So that's its main goal. But if we're bringing in an ASRS or a robotic system, that's not really the case necessarily. A lot of times we'll treat that as a black box because we don't want to know the independent movements within that ASRS. The ASRS is good at that. We just need to know what's in there, but we don't want all this noise of the ASRS trying to tell us that it moved a box just a few spots over, right? So understanding who owns which parts of those systems can save you a bunch of headache down the road when you might figure out later that, hey, we need to restructure all of this work that we did because we didn't think about the impacts on the host or the ERP as a result of who owns inventory here.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the other things is, make sure with automation, robotics, ASRS systems, that there's an API-based execution platform there so that it can talk to the WMS, take whatever direction is necessary, and then again, leave the WMS to the WMS experts, leave the storage and retrieval to the storage and retrieval experts, and then look at those all, independently of each other.
Yeah, your ASRS or your robotic system is going to be really, really good at the things that things that it does, going and getting the boxes, combining orders, doing whatever it does. The WMS is good at doing that in other situations, but don't try to be the expert of the thing that you're not the expert in.
Yeah, exactly.
Jump into execution. Really your big pieces here, we're kind of hitting on the other slides, but getting everybody aligned is really big for the go live, and for testing, you just need to decide how you're going to do it. So are we going to stage it? On the go live, are we going to stage it? Are we going to bring in systems all at once or as we go?
We ramp up. I mean, ramp up is a big part of it as well. Looking at bringing in inventory that you're going to then, store and retrieve, et cetera. I think it's really important to have a phased approach. Also on that execution strategy is making sure that the KPIs sort of fall in line. We all know what the end result is if we started with the goal and built the project, but I think it's important to take some baby steps to get to that. And your test plan should reflect that all the way up to the go live.
100%.
So I want to talk a little bit about a case study that Exotec has with a company called Lane Automotive, talking about automation necessary for the ability to handle a massive amount of business in an omni environment. They had historically been a wholesale distributor of auto parts, performance auto parts and accessories, and they had grown to have an extension of inventory that had over 100,000 different items from 630 suppliers. So pretty complex to navigate for them and fulfill orders. And then they have these really strict deadlines in order to ship. They also use the Amazon AWS shipping engine as part of their business as well. And so that was really important for them to be able to manage trucks, getting things out on time, et cetera. The other thing is that they had a small facility by comparison to what they wanted to do. So in order to stay in the four walls, they put up an Exotec SkyPod system, which is essentially it brings together AMRs, cube storage, and the speed of a shuttle. The idea for them was, how can we get this throughput and efficiency up to where we need it to be? They saw an increase of over 600%. They've elevated their output from roughly 50 lines per hour per FTE to over 300 now at each of these stations. It also gives them the ability to affect value-added services down the line. So by taking that burden off of just picking, they were able to go ahead and use those employees to do the value-added types of things that they need, because they're selling high-performance items. The other thing is that within the system, they can add robots at any time, and they can grow that system to have 2 times the volume output with minimal investment after that. And then basically you've got this ability to handle the majority of all their inventory and everything within roughly 30,000 square feet. So pretty impressive. That's all. I'd love to take some questions if anybody has any. Anyone? I realize it's the middle of lunch. All right. Well, thank you very much. Please feel free to reach out to Bricz or Exotec if you're looking to do automation, if you're looking to implement a WMS and work on a consultant strategy.
Absolutely. Thank y'all.